You want to fight crime? Let's get dangerous.
I don't know why that didn't do that, but I'm here. We're just not going to have the background in the background anymore because I am actually here. And welcome to another episode of From the Desk of a Small Press Publisher. I am Joe D. McPhee, and I hope that you guys are having a great Saturday evening here. And with that being in mind here, we got an interesting topic for tonight. I don't know if it's going to go the full 2 hours here, but it depends on you guys out there and how you guys feel and the discussion that comes from our topic here. And there they are. Yep. There they are. I'm about to say, it's like, I have to make certain that I was here at least this week because some of my youngest fans was up here trying to look for me. What was it on Friday? They was up here like, Friday, where is he? Where is he? Or was it Wednesday? Or was it Wednesday? It's like they were bored. They were bored and it was like, yep. Someone on Facebook said, Photoshop users, can you turn me form a to a 10. It was Wednesday, yeah. So I don't know if I'm becoming more and more popular or not here, but nevertheless, we still have to do our usual things here. And for those who are used to the show, we still got our Kool-Aid lady Titanium breaking through the courtroom wall saying, oh yeah, Stupid O'Clock is still happening 1 hour into our show here. That's if we really delve into the second hour here. Then that's followed up by Last Man Standing at 1 a.m. And then you have a respite until Monday with Nevermind the Furthermore. And let us not forget about, wait, where is it? There it is, Comic Book Spectrum. That is happening. That still happens on Thursday at 7 p.m. Central. If you missed it last Thursday, it was interesting because we finally got to talk. At least I finally got somebody else to really watch Tron Ares, and there are certain things that was mentioned here, and I still stand by my statement that it would be interesting to have a Tron 4 because there's a lot of loose ends still to be wrapped up between Tron Legacy and Tron Ares, just because of the simple fact that they didn't mention certain things here. But nevertheless, there's probably going to be more stuff talked about on this Thursday. So on that note, we're going to try to give people a couple more seconds here before we go into, I believe, what is probably one of the more favorite parts of the show here, which is new comic book pickups for the week here. And if I am correct, I believe that is because everybody loves seeing what people have picked up here. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and do it. There it is, new comic book pickups for the week here. It is one that is live tonight because I was thinking about taking these to storage earlier this morning, and I was like, nah, we do it live. I still got another box of books to take in. Oh, that's on the back. Okay. So we're going to start out with the 2020 Free Comic Book Day of Lady Mechanica. We have that came in, and then we got Return of the Valkyries #1, the actual Valkyrie cover by I believe that's the Art Journal cover. And then we got the Wonder Woman the Woman Day version of DC Super Hero Girls #1. This is, to me, this is the more failed version of the DC Superhero Girls, because the one done by Lauren Faust is the one that is more known than this version here. Then we got an Adventure Comics #400 featuring Supergirl. It's not in the best of shape, but it is a issue 400 of that series here. And we got more comics here, so hold on, people. Yay, in stereo. Well, it's like more like surrounding friends. Then we got another Red Sonja #10, which is nice. And then we're going to get into a nice, robust stack of Outsiders from Volume 3, because that's the only volume that I recognize of the Outsiders. Why? There is no Bruce Wayne. This is why I like this version, because with Nightwing being the leader of the team, this team makes a lot more sense. So with that being said, we got issue number 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, and 49. And that issue number 50, which I get misty-eyed about. Why? Because Batman shows up and ruins the whole thing, and the series ends right here. So that's why I say I get teary-eyed, because, oh, Bruce shows up. Oh, well, party's over with. My fun is over with. But I also have the one and only annual as well that they have for Volume 3 of The Outsiders, which is pretty nice and good and everything. And like I said, I kind of enjoyed Volume 3 because it introduced new characters to the Outsiders, such as Grace Joy, and it read pretty nicely for a team that was led by Dick Grayson. So I agree. So how does it feel to have 4 girls that would eliminate the world and destroy your enemies for it? I don't know how to answer that question here. I'm more along the lines of fear. It's like, I fear more that I don't want to betray your guys' trust than anything else. So I have to do right by you guys. So that's pretty much the way I look at it. So to round out this week's new comic book pickups for the week, we're going to go and delve into a full set here. So in that case, because it's a full set, we do. And that is for Death of the New Gods here. Yes, this is a full set. I didn't realize I was missing a few issues of this run of Death of the New Gods here. So we have issue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and the last issue of number 8 here. So that is a nice little set there, and I am happy for it. Oh, you need that set too. Oh, okay. I think that's the only complete set that I have here. If that was like my second or third set, I'd be like, okay, fine, I just put it to the side. But nope, that's my very first full set here. And that is new comic book pickups for the week here, which brings us to, and where did I do with it? Where I did do with it? There it is. Bring us to our updates here No updates on the Film Force as of yet, because why? Not too many people carry back issues of Film Force above issue 100. I'm really trying not to break myself down to buying it directly from AC Comics, because I know there's going to be more of a markup. Nor do I trust eBay like that. So I'm up here trying to find it in other sources here. Being says I like Orion, and I like chairman chairman Metron. Metron is a cool character. I am not a big fan of Orion, and if I could say it in this aspect, Orion to me is more or less like, what if Darkseid was a good guy? He has very big flaws like his dad. Not to say that he's a bad character. It's just I just don't. It's something about him that because of his flaws just make me think like, yeah, there's something else. There's something else here. Like the Kirby cycle. Yep. So we got that, and then no updates for Ghost here, because the auctions that I've been going to have not been centered around modern copies of Ghost as of late here. So I might have to go comic book store route. Same thing with the Spirit. I just don't want to go to eBay as of yet to continue that type of stuff here. The Uncanny X-Men, I'm still paying off the books for the people that pull. So these numbers actually have changed a lot. I just don't change them until I actually have them in hand. Now, the whole Wonder Woman chase, I do have to preference this here. I'm really trying to work with people who have collections that have older ones, and I am close to having another early Wonder Woman. I'm $100 away from paying it completely off. It is an early Wonder Woman in the low. I wouldn't say low. The issue is in the 60s. So when I say the 60s, I'm talking about in the numbers of the 60s. So I believe it's either like 65, 66, or 67. I can't remember which one off the top of my head here. But it is one of those issues here. So that number will change here. I just have to, by this time next month, it will be paid for, hopefully in hand. But we're getting there. We're still getting there here. And the same thing with the X-Men here. I just haven't gone the eBay route to try to find those missing issues as of yet, because I don't want to pay eBay prices per se. So that brings us to the production update. And sadly to say, I have not worked on any comics for this update. So for those who was hoping that I have more pages of stuff to show, I didn't have time for anything to that magnitude. However, and because I don't talk about a lot of the different stuff that I actually do, this might come to a shock to some of you. I just turned in another article to a comic magazine called Comics Unlimited here. It's not my first article that I did for them. This is going to be like either my 5th or 6th or something like that. Probably it's my 5th, I believe, because I got 4 other issues here. I don't if there was another one before this one, I don't have that issue as of yet here. But safe to say, for those who don't believe me, yes, Comics Unlimited is an actual magazine that is done and printed in Great Britain. So it's not just something that's in the US. It is a worldwide magazine. The actual publishing company is in Great Britain here. And it's like I only issue number 5. And as you can see right there's my name here, stating that, I had a contribution in that one, as well as issue number 7. There's my name right there in issue number 7. And then I was one of the main contributors for issue number 9 because my article about what is an Amazon is prominently featured on the cover here. And then issue number 11 was the last one that I did here. The bittersweet news about this is like this article that I submitted in this time around may or may not be added in. It was a submission here, and the actual editor is going to let me know if they're going to use it or not. And if they don't use it, I'm okay with it here. But for those who are interested about what I wrote about in the article, it is about AI, the artist, and unrational fears. So pretty much I talked about from my own experience about the way to look at all these different AI tools when it comes to art and production and everything to that magnitude here. I preface that I don't have the definitive answer, but I know what I know. I know what I know. I see what I see. And pretty much, like it stated in the article, I hate doing op-ed type articles. However, I'm just going to go based upon my experience. And from my experience, it's like there's nothing to really fear when it comes to all these AI tools that people are using here. Do I feel that those who solely and only use these AI tools to create work are artists? No. You only are a true artist once you go the traditional route and look at these things, look at, all these AI platforms as just tools. Because if you don't have a firm foundation in the tradition, in the traditional techniques here, those tools can make your work seem amateur. It may look the part, but those with the trained eye and understand, how things are supposed to work could pick you apart all day, every day. But I didn't get into like a lot of the AI is bad and this, that, and the other. I just went pretty much like we talked about a little bit of the copyright rules and what AI can and cannot do, especially with some of the works and stuff that I did on DeviantArt. I even talked about some of the platforms. Like, for example, one of the reasons I did not talk about a lot of the music and movie AI tools was because it's kind of like, in my point of view, it's kind of like a bait and switch. They get you out there saying, oh, it's free to use, and you start putting stuff together, and then all of a sudden it's like, to use this particular, item, you have to pay extra money because it's not a resource that is part of the free package. And I feel a certain way about that as a whole too. But saying all that to say is that should established professional artists feel a certain way about these AI tools? And I'm up here like, no, they can't replace you because of the simple fact that it cannot create content or works on its own. The problem really lies in where if you work for bigger studios and the contracts that you maintain with them, and whether your previous work, whether if you work for a comic book publisher, whether you work with a movie studio and everything to that magnitude, your previous work based upon the contract that you was hired up under, whether if you're an in-house artist, a work for hire, or somewhere in between as a private contractor, the work that you did might be 100% owned by that studio. And if that's the case, then guess what? They could probably buy an AI package and then use your work as data and produce like sequels and stuff to your work without having your input or anything to that magnitude. Is that a bad thing? Yeah, but that's their prerogative based upon labor contracts. And that's what I have to get people to understand here. The labor contracts and how people look at copyrights is really the bigger deal when it comes to looking at AI, when it comes to art. It has nothing to do with the tool itself. So once you strip that argument away, you got newer people who coming in who might be more familiar with computers that was solely going to use the AI tools. And guess what? Using the AI tools might be a shortcut, but it does not teach you the traditional. You still might not be able to draw a straight line or a circle or a square or a stick figure. But the AI tool is going to compensate for that for you. No, nothing wrong with that. However, in the right hands of a traditionally trained artist, and they take the time to learn the craft of using some of these tools, there could be some new innovation coming down the line and we just don't know it. But that's just my take on it. But if you want to read my innermost thoughts about it, that article is in the hands of the editor-in-chief of Comics Unlimited. And I just leave it at that. If they publish it, they publish it. If not, it got it got left on the cutting room floor. And if worse comes to worse, I could always post it on at cgcstudios.com if people are interested enough to read it. But for right now, it's in the hands of the editor-in-chief here. I'll hear back soon about it, hopefully. And then if I do hear back and say that they use it, I'll let you guys know which issue number it's going to be in and go from there. So that kind of piggybacks on tonight's topic here. And tonight's topic is not every idea should be published. And I know some of you guys out here are going to be like, well, Joe, what do you mean by not every idea? I mean, there's no such thing as a bad idea. You just need to develop it and put it out there and see if it sticks. Yeah, to a certain degree, it's okay. But there's other aspects of why certain ideas should not be published, especially when you deal within the creative aspect of certain things here. Because you have to look at the audience that is in that particular medium or in that particular audience for that medium. Like, perfect example. And let me reach back here. Those who know me and understand where I'm coming from here, those who really follow the type of work that I do, knew that Legends of the Giantess Slayer was actually created, and issue number 1 has been done for almost close to like a year and a half. I was afraid to put it out there. And the reason I was afraid to put it out there because my normal audience loved what I did with Primetime Saturday Night and Amazonia and AWF and some of the, pay for hire works where it was, kind of like PG-13 and teen type rated type stuff. Now, all of a sudden I'm throwing something out there that was 100% adult. It is something that is not normal to what they have been reading from me in the past. And it could, throw them for a loop here. Now, quite frankly, I would not give this to any of my younger readers out here because, like it's specifically stated, this is adults only, 18 and above here. But with that being stated here, it's like most people would never, if you've been writing, all this other stuff for so long, other people would not want you to cross that line to something that is more adult here. Another example is that one of my magnum opus titles I have not released as of yet. I have written and developed the universe behind it, but I have not done a true issue number 1, and that is Last Line of Defense. And the reason I haven't done it because the main character is a bit controversial, especially for those that is overly religious here. And it's not one of those types of things that, the average everyday person will understand if this particular thing happens to you. It will throw people for a loop here. And those who have sat through a lot of the, if I could say, the brainstorming and all the other stuff behind the scenes, going all the way back into like the early 2000s with this one. Those who sat through it, it's like, that is an excellent concept. It's like, why don't you put it out? It's like, I don't think people are ready for that. Because if people understood the nature of the main character's newfound powers, they will look at it and be like, why? Why are some of these choices done the way that it is? The average person would not act that way. I was like, well, here's the thing. And one of the key areas about this book is that the main character has to regain his humanity because of the power that was given to him. And it will upset a lot of people who are deeply spiritual. Because if you're really, really deeply spiritual, I believe some people will have a fit about it because of the simple fact that it gets into some topics that will make them kind of be like, no, that's not right. It doesn't agree. It doesn't agree with doctrine and all this other stuff. I was like, well, it's not really supposed to be 100% in line with doctrine as most people teaches it. But at the same time, it's a very deep hero's journey. It does have a distinct beginning and end. And the end is something that I believe most people can only guess at because we haven't gotten to that point spiritually. But nevertheless, it is available. It is something that I could put together. It is something that I could put out there, but I know that the bigger audience is not ready for it. And that's what I mean by every idea should not be published. It may be good ideas. It may be something that people would read. But in the way that I would look at it, it's like sometimes you have to groom your audience to be ready for it. You just don't want to have like that knee-jerk response and put out something that ruins your reputation more so than anything else here. Now, granted, we're in a day and age where we got a lot of, especially some of the legendary creators now going through turmoils based upon things that is happening in their personal lives. And then you got some people that publish some stuff that caused them some controversies as well. So it makes you wonder why is it that not everything should be published? Because of the fact that sometimes some ideas are just too far ahead of its time, and sometimes some ideas really need to be truly developed to be made palatable for the bigger audience. And if it's not palatable for the bigger audience, and when I say the bigger audience, we're talking about not just for the people who want to read your stuff, whether it be in a novel or a graphic novel or a comic book or on digital or on a computer. You have to look at the bigger audience that could read it outside of that. Because again, we have to look at the bigger picture of the court of opinion. And to be quite honest, sometimes the court of opinion was not knowledgeable about the actual medium that the work is made for. And the bigger court of opinion will always have knee-jerk reaction. And what do you mean by knee-jerk reaction? Knee-jerk reaction meaning that they will hear a synopsis of what it's about and be like, oh no, that is bad. No. This person should not do it. We should ban it already. It's like, you really have no idea what is contained in it. It could be a very positive message that is on target to how you believe, but because you have a knee-jerk reaction to it, it doesn't get into existence because the popular opinion swayed the creator to not do it. So that's one of the reasons why I had this topic as it is on tonight here. Now, mind you, there's a lot of bad ideas out there that should never be touched. But there's ones in the creative aspects that if you do it right, it could be a very great story to tell and a very great way to get points of humanity and morals across without being preachy. And that's one of the things that always got my goat, at least within like the last 15 years of being in comics. It's like some of these writers nowadays, and I know, the clan that, my Sunstrider clan that's out there watching, I know how they feel about some of these so-called people, that some of these so-called creators that gets into that preachy aspect here. And it's just weird because, again, the whole point is to take a person on a journey, not to hit them upside the head with morals or an overall theme here. Let them go on the journey. Let them make their own decision about the characters and all the other stuff that's going on here. I mean, I guess another way that I could put this is, if you ever look at my reviews for the Nubia the young adult Nubia graphic novels, the two that was out there, the real one, and I forgot what the subtitle for the second one. And I told people the first one I hated. The second one came back, and I was like, this should have been put out first. This is a lot more palatable. It makes sense for the character that you're writing about. The first book, it's almost like, okay, you're writing this universe that kind of makes the character dated, and not dated in a good way, but dated in a time frame that is hyper political. And you're bringing attention to certain things, like almost getting to the point of beating people upside the head about certain aspects of it, to where the bigger story gets left behind and people are just going to focus in on these particular scenes that was in the story that overwrites the actual character's journey. The second graphic novel, we actually have a hero's journey. We see the growth of the character. Not to say that there was not growth of Nubia in that first novel, but everything else around it, if I could say, were shouting louder than her journey. The fact that they never truly rooted her in Wonder Woman lore into the second novel was really jarring. But what they did in that second novel, like I said, it was chef's kiss as far as reeling it back in to really give us an idea of what a younger version of that character in her teens could have been. But does that mean that the ideas that was in that first novel should have been published? I would say maybe, maybe not. But that comes back down to having the proper editors to say, okay, let's reel this back in. Let's reel a few of these things back in to make certain that the journey takes forefront as opposed to the messages that you're sending. Just like how in the second novel, the journey took precedence over all of the other signaling that was done in the first one. It's not that hard to do, but it takes what I consider a team effort, where you have actual good editors looking at the idea and be like, okay, we need to flesh this out a little bit more. We need to work on this a little bit more, especially since the demographic that they was going for these graphic novels were from the age of 9 to maybe like 16. So this was supposed to be like young adult, a young adult type title. So it was really geared towards modern, modern tweens and teens. And a lot of the modern teens and tweens would not look at certain aspects of what was in that first novel in the same way that an adult would. And I think that's what's kind of the problem here. I still want to read more of the one that had the biggest controversy here. Is like I'm Not Starfire, because that one had a lot of virtual signaling in there instead of the whole self-image type story that it was supposed to be built to be. But people lambasted it. And when I say lambasted it, I'm talking about the court of public opinion lambasted it before reading it. I was able to read snippets of it and I understood where they was going with it, but because of those snippets and because of how heavy-handed they went into those scenes here and a lot of the design here, it turned a lot of people off. It turned a lot of comic book readers off. So if it's turning a lot of comic book readers off and they say it's like, I might pass on it, those who are in the bigger audience who don't read would look at it and see the graphics and would see what they were trying, get the synopsis and what they're trying to do. And especially if they, go from, this is what Starfire looks like, this is what her daughter is supposed to look like. Popular opinion is going to have a field day with it. And that's where the problem lies at. As far as just some things just should not be put out there in a way that it gets lambasted before it actually really develops into something really, really nice here. But, I could only say so much when it comes to that aspect of it, because, yeah, I have ideas in my head that I could put out there in comic book form, being an editor in chief myself. But at the same time, I just don't go out there and be like, oh, let's go guns a-blazing about this. Just like I didn't want to go guns a-blazing with Legends of the Giant Slayer, because I know for a fact it's like, and even with Aaron's questions with some of the things that was in that one, it's like I got into the more of the psychological aspects of adult topics that, because of some of my current audience that's watching this show right now, I can't really go into. I might go into it in my interview coming up on Tuesday, but there's a lot of themes that goes into that book. But I also make people aware that the main key focus dealing with that adult book is that the main one that will be talked about the most is about compatibility and how people should not downplay compatibility in relationships. So, it's a lot of stuff that goes into it. Now, people will look at a lot of the superficial aspects of it. It's like, why this and why that? It's like, no, go on the journeys with some of these characters, and a lot of the stuff gets explained a lot better as far as the psychological, the compatibility aspects, and relatability to real life aspects of it. It's like the Sunstrider girls have all have Randall hot dog. But here's the main question here. Since you're going to bring up hot dogs, no ketchup, right? None of them will have ketchup. I kind of suspect that somebody might have cheese, another one might have sauerkraut, somebody else might have just plain mustard, and then somebody might have onions and pickle relish. Am I close? Am I close, or am I way off? Or if somebody has ketchup on it, I will look at them kind of strange. It's like, why did you do that? Just go grab a tomato and have a tomato with the actual hot dog. Yeah, tomatoes, pickles, sauerkraut, mustard, onions, and sauce. Yep, For those who don't know, it's like, me being in Chicago, and it's like, oh, we're going to have a hot dog. It's like, I want to put ketchup on my hot dog. It's like, why? And people look at me straight. It's like, well, I like ketchup on my hot dog. It's like, do you realize why people put ketchup on hot dogs? People put ketchup on hot dogs because there's no tomatoes. Traditional hot dogs have tomatoes served with it, which means that in the bun, it's like you have the hot dog, you have the pickle relish, you have a line of mustard, and you have tomatoes. When you don't have tomatoes, most people would substitute the tomatoes with what? Ketchup. Hot dogs traditionally do not have ketchup. That's what tomatoes are for. It's usually served with tomatoes. Now, the Sunstrider clan would be up there. It's like, if I was telling you wrong, they would be the first one to be like, no, shut up, Unky Joe. You don't know what you're talking about. But they know. You really don't put ketchup on a hot dog. Especially if you got tomatoes around, why are you doing that? Now, I get it. As a kid, especially in schools and everything here, school lunches, they don't have time to give you fresh tomatoes, so they give you a packet of mustard and a packet of ketchup. I get it. I'm not going to knock people for having ketchup on a hot dog, but I want people to know why they feel ketchup is an option. Ketchup is an option because a traditional, whether it be Chicago, New York, or ballpark, or any place, anywhere else, usually there is going to be, when you get to the condiment section, there's going to be either whole sliced or diced tomatoes, and that makes up for the need for ketchup, because that is the traditional aspect of serving a hot dog. It is what it is. And they said Unky Joe is a learned man. even from the carts, I get onions and sauce and sauerkraut mustard. Yep. But that's the traditional reason for that. And like I said, it's like, as a little kid, we have those school lunches, especially if they serve hot dogs for your school lunch. Not every school lunch had the ability to serve you tomatoes or pickle relish or onions and all this other stuff. They give you a packet of mustard and a packet of ketchup. Mustard has always been the traditional sauce for hot dogs. Ketchup is not, because ketchup is a substitute for fresh tomatoes, period. But you don't have to believe me, but I don't knock people for having ketchup on their hot dog, but trust me, if you come around certain places around here in Chicago and be like, can I have some ketchup on a Chicago dog? They're going to tell you. That's not how it is. See, being like hot dogs on sliced bread with cheese and make it a sandwich. Yeah. There used to be like, well, they still make them, but back in the day when I was little, they used to have like the cheese dogs, where the cheese is built into the hot dog itself. It's like you have the hot dog, and in the center of the hot dog you have cheese that's built into it. But again, that's getting to the unhealthy aspects of hot dogs and everything to that magnitude as a whole here. But yeah, there's nothing wrong with hot dogs with cheese. Sometimes people get experimental, especially if you go to like a 7-Eleven, you go and grab a hot dog at a 7-Eleven, you put nacho cheese on it. So you get your tomatoes, your onions, your pickle relish, and then you go over to the nacho thing and put a line or two of nacho cheese on it. Pretty decent eating for cheap. Pretty decent eating for cheap. It's a bit messy, but it's a pretty decent eating here. Yeah, but those hot dogs sucks. Yeah, they're not good. When I say they're not good, because it's ultra processed. because of the simple fact that they're not giving you real cheese. Real cheese actually melt. I don't know what type of cheese it is. For it to boil the way that it does or the way it cooks up, the cheese itself does not melt properly. So we know that it's an ultra processed type deal here. Because they're hot dogs and not frankfurters. Yeah. Like turkey hot dogs are good with the Kraft cheese slices. Problem with turkey hot dogs: over sodium content. That's the reason why people tell you not to eat turkey bacon, not to eat turkey hot dogs, and to be careful with turkey sausages. The sodium content is way much higher because of what they're trying to do to keep the actual sausage, hot dog, and bacon together. Is it healthier for you? We don't know because of the high sodium content. That's the only problem. That's the only problem. It's the high sodium content to keep consistency. You can't get around it because I would say like my freshman and sophomore year of high school, we used to live off of like turkey hot dogs and turkey bacon and stuff like that until we realized it's like, wow, this is awfully salty half of the time. And we have to like do extra stuff to curtail the salt. And then we looked at what is really in it. It's like, oh, it's salty because that's just the way that they preserve it here. But, that's the nature of the thing. That's the nature of the business here, as far as what's on a hot dog, what you put on a hot dog, what you should, how you should eat it, why people frown about ketchup on a hot dog. It shouldn't be frowned upon, but people need to realize it's like ketchup is only a substitute for not having fresh tomato. Just like, pickle relish is a substitute for not having a kosher spear on the hot dog. That's another thing that people don't realize. It's like, well, pickle relish is part of like, no, pickle relish is a substitute. A actual hot dog, the way that's supposed to be served is with a spear, a dill spear. Because all this stuff used to actually be a part of the bun. It's like you have to look at it and that's the other thing. I don't care what people say. A hot dog is kind of like a modified sandwich. Just like a taco could technically be a modified sandwich when you look at the aspect of sandwiches. Same thing with a gyro, or I should say hero. They are sandwiches. Now, just because it's not like how Americans have the traditional aspect of one slice of bread, then the meat, and another slice of bread on top of it, they're all sandwiches in their own aspect here. Getting back to the hot dog, it is considered a sandwich because the way that it is truly prepared is usually the sauces. Like if you really want mustard and everything, the mustard goes in first onto the bun. Then you put the hot dog in. Then you put your dill spear in with your onions. Along the side here. And then on the side with the onions, you put a couple of slices of tomato. And it forms a sandwich in that aspect here. Now, you could add extra stuff like sauerkraut on top of it. And if you put the sauerkraut on top of it, you might put some more mustard on top of the sauerkraut, and it still forms that same consistency for the sandwich aspect of that hot dog. But now the other thing is like, how do we get into hot dog construction and why the whole thing about ketchup and substitution and everything? But nevertheless, that's the way you have to think of it. The hot dog is a sandwich. Maybe in a couple of weeks, we'll talk about why tacos might be a sandwich and heroes might be sandwiches here. Because, again, that's a whole different aspect of it. But, we could talk about food all day here, but the topic was more about why certain things shouldn't be published. But the thing about why certain ideas shouldn't be published is because you always have to deal with the court of opinion, and the court of opinion could throw you for a loop one way or the other. Even if you have a great idea and if it's really, really developed very, very well, court of opinion could down, if I could say, cause a derailment of your progress here. Some of the things that I've read that I thought were good ideas, but before their time and because of court of opinion got their way, it never really took off the way that it should. One of them was like Bitch Planet. That series, there's two things that I made clear that made me at first, because I was part of that court of opinion that was like, why are they doing this? It's like, when you finally find out the way that the press was pushing it and you get the synopsis, it's like, why are they doing this? This is kind of silly and stupid to push, a series based upon this agenda. When I actually read it, because I got all the issues here, when I actually read it for what it was worth, I asked the creator two questions here. One was the major question. It's like, he never truly gave us an issue to establish the universe of why the opinions that is being given in this particular series is the way that it is. And the second thing was kudos, because of the simple fact that if it wasn't for the backstories of some of these characters, it wouldn't have worked. It really wouldn't have worked. This series would not have worked, because it would have felt like somebody's hitting you upside the head if you didn't have the detailed backstories of some of these characters and you went on their journey as far as why they are the way that they are and the way that society was treating them. Like I said, if you ever read issue 3 of Bitch Planet, that to me was really kind of like the soul and essence of what the series was supposed to be about here. Now, by the time we get to like issue number 6, when we start talking about the exiled politician, then it kind of went off the rails a bit. But before we start talking about that before we can start talking about the politician that pretty much I feel kind of broke the series, and from there I believe it only went 10 issues before they went to the triple features. By the time we get to like issue 6, issue 7, it went off the rails. And it couldn't be salvaged. But issue 3, 4, 5, I believe 6, 5 was I believe was the death of one of the main players in that series. And then after that happened, they kind of resolved a couple of things. It went off the rails, and I kind of wish it didn't go off the rails, because it had actually something there that it could have been a good ongoing series. And the points that was trying to be made could have been made, and they could have followed up on a consistent basis. And it would not have hit people as hard as it did in the very beginning, but people would understand why people feel the way that they feel through the eyes of the characters. But needless to say, court of public opinion, because like I said, I was part of that says like, why would we need this? But I was smart enough. If I'm going to talk about it, if I'm going to be like, no, this is not for me, at least I need to give it a try. I gave it a try, and I found out that it was something there that I ended up liking and falling for, and then fell out of it later because of what had happened with some of the characters in the series. Now, unlike most people who are in that court of public opinion, they may have never been swayed to be like, okay, let me give this a try, even though That's one of the reasons why not every idea should be published, because if you get to that point where it's like, if the idea gets to the point where public opinion loathes it and won't even give it a chance, you kind of dead in the water. You need people to be a part of that main audience coming in that gate that will really be willing to sit down and read what you have to say. And when I say read what you have to say, I'm talking about the story that you created, the universe that you created. They need to have that hero's journey to take them through what is really going on. They have to have that relatability. And I think that's what's truly missing in a lot of comics nowadays in the modern aspect. And when I say in the modern aspect, I talk about new titles that has nothing to do with anything that has been established previously. So we're not talking about any type of content of like established characters. So we're not talking about your Supermans, your Batmans, your Wonder Womans, your whatever character that you can name here. Even the stuff that's in public domain, we're not even talking about that. I'm talking about brand new, out of the box, new titles that people have not heard of. You have to have that relatability. The idea has to make it past the court of public opinion. It has to be really relatable. You have to take people on that journey. And not every book takes people on that journey here. And and again, I kind of miss those days of where I was reviewing other people's work, especially doing like the whole, oh, come on my show for the Kickstarter interview before you could talk about your Kickstarter, talk about you and everything to that magnitude. And do I miss those days? Not really. You want to know why I don't miss those days? Because most of those creators don't want to talk about themselves, let alone barely talk about their work. If you really get me going about some of the stuff that I'm trying to put in the books that I'm working on right now, you wouldn't get me to shut up. That's how deep and passionate that you have, that I am, when you get into how intricate these stories are being weaved and put out there for you. When you deal with people who are dealing with these Kickstarters who have like a somewhat decent idea, but it has not been developed beyond one issue, it makes you wonder. Because when you truly start delving into, oh, that's an interesting idea. Are you planning to go this direction or that direction, or are you going to do something that makes it do like a 180? They can look at you with this blank stare. It's like, I haven't thought that far. And that's a problem. And, that tells me that if you haven't thought that far, then you shouldn't be putting out that idea. You always have to think beyond the issue 1. I put out Legends of the Giant Slayer after I completed issue 3. I started Amazonia after I wrote 8 scripts for 8 issues. I did AWF on the fly because of the simple fact that I had an artist who wanted to do the project with me. And they was just that passionate about, you're doing the right thing as far as the designs of the different women. We need to see variety. They saw the world that I developed and they was on board. Did I have scripts and stuff ready? No. But it made me work 10 times harder to keep up. Now, since I'm on issue number 8, I have 10, 11, and 12 written already for Amazonia. So Amazonia, I know where that's going. And when I get to like issue 10, I'm probably going to be typing up the very end of the first story arc, 13, 14, and 15. But we're there. primetime Saturday night. We're there. I know where this the second story arc is going to end. I know who's going to be AWF champion. I know who's going to be the tag team champion, and I know who's going to be the intercontinental champion. Already, I already know the journey that I'm about to get ready to take you on. It has all been mapped out and ready. But when you have creators that haven't thought beyond that and just only have like, oh, it would be great if I had like a Superman like character fight aliens. And they put out a book and it's like, well, what's your book about? And they tell me that. And it's like, well, have you thought about this, and this? And they give you that blank stare. Like, I never thought about that far. I just want to get the first issue out. It makes me wonder. They really do. Some people would say that, oh, they're doing it for a cash grab. I was like, no. It may have been a great idea, but it was not ready to be published. It shouldn't have gotten published. Most things when it comes to comics, if you follow what the big boys do, most ideas get developed for anywhere between the first 3 to first 5 issues. Now, after they have written the script and got a script approved and all this other stuff, and they started working on the artwork for like an issue 2 or issue 3, that's when you start seeing that issue number 1 really being talked about and really being pushed. And the worlds really do get developed in depth before they even start writing a script. So ideas are just not, something for, just to be like, oh, I got this idea and I'm just going to willy-nilly just go ahead and draw it. It's like, no, you got to really think about the world. You got to really think about all of the tools and everything that you have to use to develop the world the way that you need to make those characters in your story pop. Then you have to think about, will the court of popular opinion like the idea? If you're getting too overboard in one thing and you might be offensive, you might have to either be upfront to be like, hey, this is going to be offensive, and you might want to watch out about it and be upfront to popular opinion, or you might have to rethink it and tone some stuff down. But you have choices, and that's the key thing here. When you develop for comics, you have to take that idea to that next level where everything is developed. I wouldn't say you have a roadmap, but when people start asking you about that universe, you should be able to answer those questions. It's like, what makes the character, what's the character's motivation here? Why is the world the way that it is? You'd be surprised at how often that question comes up. Like, for example, if you see her, last week, Aaron was asking a question. It's like, why are giants in this world? It's like, my first question to him is like, it depends on your definition of giants, because we got people who are, 6.5 feet, 7 feet tall walking around, and people consider them giants. So it's not unheard of. Now, if you're going to go into the whole mythological type stuff, yeah, that gets into the whole thing. It's like, well, I'm not going to, the sword and sorcery type aspect of it, but there is, there could be tribes and races of people that's still around. I'm not going into anything that is, like I said, sword or sorcery or alien or anything to that magnitude. It's just the nature of this universe where you have people of superpower origins, where this is commonplace. It's not something that is unique to this particular comic book series. And to be quite honest, and like I said, I'm willing to go more in depth on it on Tuesday when I talk to Matt. AWF Primetime Saturday Night, AWF and Amazonia are technically tied together by one particular story. But I won't reveal that as of yet here. because if I ever do a crossover between the two, it would be thoroughly explained why it's so important. And that and part of that story has been talked about a little bit. And I forget which issue of AWF I started talking about it, because the rumor is dealing with who was the first woman that changed the AWF for good. Now, if you've been reading Primetime Saturday Night, some of the candidates that have been brought up would have been Madam Majestic and Juggernaut. And if you guess one of those two, you're wrong. Absolutely wrong. But that mystery is tied into something that did happen in Amazonia. But we get to that at a different time. But saying all that to say here is that I'm pretty much at the end of our topic for tonight here. But that's the key thing, of reason why I said not every idea should be published. Ideas need to be thoroughly developed and ready to be tested by court of public opinion, to be tested by editors, to be tested to make certain that it has viability, where if people ask those right questions, you have an answer for them. Not no, I've never gotten that far. Well, hi there, Fable One Collection now. Hopefully you are enjoying the show. You probably came across it for the very first time here. We're just getting, through with wrapping up tonight's topic here. So we're about to get ready to wrap things up, unless you got questions about what we talked about, or if you got questions in general here. And everybody's greeting Fable. But that's kind of like the thing to really think about here. Have you developed this idea beyond, oh, it would be cool if this type of character fight that type of character? What's the motivation for the fight? What is going on with the universe? Why are they fighting in the first place? Those are the types of things that always have to be developed here. Those are the types of things that people have to truly look at. And if you're not doing that, then why even publish it? It just doesn't make any sense here. She said, "What a random hot dog." And you never know. They will probably send you a random hot dog. They will find the means and method to actually send one to you if you really wanted one. But saying all that to say, one of the things that I like about this show is that I get to talk to you guys directly and everything. It's like, oh, Beanie would figure that out. Yep, she would probably would do it. And that's one of the reasons I like talking to you guys directly in that aspect here. You posted in PSG chat with wanted to swing by and say hi. Oh, not a problem. Yeah, this is one of the two shows that I do weekly here. The Saturday show is pretty much what I do comic book related wise. I come in. We have new comic book pickups for the week, new stuff that I pick up over the week here. Updates to my personal PC. Quick little update as far as stuff that I worked on for my comic book brand stuff here. You got Legends of the Giantess Slayer, Primetime Saturday Night, you have Amazonia, you have AWF. These are just random Bristol boards that I still need to draw on for issue number 8 for Amazonia and stuff to that magnitude. And then we have a topic, whether it be something dealing with collecting of comic books, production of comic books, or just something that was just so asinine and out there in geek culture that just need to be talked about here. One of the things that I do make clear is that I'm not one of those guys who believe that that your collecting hobby should fund itself. and not into the investing aspect of comics here. Even though I get it, I get why some people want to go into the investment aspect of it, but I'm not one to say it's like, oh, your comic books, your comic book spending should fund itself and this, that, and the other. It's like, take too much time, too much stress, buy what you like, read what you like, and enjoy it. If anything, I'm more of a comic book preservationist, meaning that I like going out and getting full runs of stuff and being able to read it from top to bottom to get the full story, and love runs of books here. And if I had my major wish, if I was ever able to, win like on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or come into a whole bunch of money and everything, I would start a museum for some of the collections that I have here. And have like either a place where people could come in and be able to look at and talk about particular series here. I do concentrate my collection mainly on Wonder Woman and X-Men, but I do have several different runs of other series, such as Will Eisner's The Spirit here. I got a couple of magazine size Modesty Blaze back behind me here. Not I'm talking about back behind me. I'm talking about behind the green screen stuff and everything to that magnitude here. I'm still working on runs such as like Volume 3 of Outsiders. I got pretty much everything that's She-Hulk related, but that's the nature of the Saturday show. The Thursday show, Comic Book Spectrum, is pretty much new comic book day type stuff, and we try to review comics. We talk about anything that's in geek culture, whether it be stuff that we see on Disney Plus, HBO Max, latest movies and everything, cartoons, until YouTube kind of sort of put the kibosh on it, because we wasn't doing much commentary about a lot of the classic cartoons, because we would take things like classic cartoons like Fame Face and go back and review and talk about what was good, what was bad, why was some of the writings about that. We were surprised that we had Jack Kirby doing some of the designs of Goldie Gold and stuff to that magnitude. So it's a little bit of everything. We cover a little bit of everything with the Thursday show of Comic Book Spectrum, but tonight's show is, I pretty much dedicate these shows to you guys. You come out here to talk to me. We'll talk comics. We'll talk about why, if you want to know why did Rob Liefeld didn't want to draw feet, we could sit here and talk about it and everything to that magnitude. And he said, I'm with you. I have no interest in the investment aspect of collecting. I love good stories and good art. And that's the whole thing. I'm old school in that way. Back in the day, back in from like the 1940s all the way up until I want to say 1990s. 1990s was when the whole investment thing started to come about because of Wizard Magazine and the Wizard Price Guys, and brick and mortar stores started using the Wizard Price Guide more because it came out more often and they could make more money off of it. And people started looking at, oh, my X-Men #1, my Jim Lee X-Men #1 cover A went from being the $1.50 that it was to like $6. Oh, that was a worthwhile investment. I could sit back and wait for that to just grow and grow and grow, because X-Men is a very popular series. But lo and behold, they forgot that they print over 1 million copies of that, and it's still easy to get those issues here. And I had very, 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 very many from the Dust of a Small Press publisher that talked about what is rare and what is not rare. And the whole, if I could say, manufactured rarity of variant covers. And that is the honest truth here. Because I get into a lot of arguments with those who are in that aspect of investment and the hobby funding itself, collecting aspect of it, because when you look at it in the bigger scheme, when you collect a run of something, you're really not buying a particular cover unless that's what you're looking for. If you want the full story, you just want an issue number 3. The current buying climate is forcing people to make that choice. It's like, oh, you don't want that A cover, you want this 1 in 100, because the 1 in 100 is a more valuable copy of issue number 3 than it is for the A cover. And that's a problem. But that's a topic for another day. And if you guys want me to talk about that topic, just go ahead and put notes up in the comments and let me know, because we could talk about that all day, every day. Because trust me, I will go to bat all day to say issue number 3 is an issue number 3 is an issue number 3. Now, if you're going to make comic book covers a poor man art gallery, so be it. I'm not against it. But you still get the same issue number 3 at the end of the day. And what's going to end up happening is that you're going to end up pushing more people who could come into reading comics a lot faster. You push them away a lot faster than turning them on. And I think that's where we need to get to, is turning more people on to comics, getting people to read the source material that a lot of these movies are coming from. Do we need one-to-one correlation between movies, TV, and the comics? Not really. But what we need to understand is that what is done for the movies is really done for the movies, because that's what moviegoers are going to pay attention to. Not just comic book readers, but moviegoers. Because every comic book reader could be a moviegoer, but not every moviegoer could be a comic book reader, because they just don't care about the source material here. I used to be into variants, but there were so many covers of Wolverine. Yeah, I get it. Especially when you get into volume 4. Volume 4, I believe, was like where things just got really, 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 really bad. Because I know that in the 80s, when we had, the very first Patch one, the number one for, when we finally get to see Patch, I was still in junior high school-ish during that time. And by the time I was getting out of college, we was getting close to the end of that volume. So I know volume 3 didn't have very many variants, but I do know volume 4 was where it took off very, very much, with all the volumes. And there is Mr. Green. Now, Green Lantern 99, for those who don't know, he's one of the colorists that I use for some of the books that we do here, especially for Amazonia. He has done several issues of Amazonia for us here. Quite frankly, he did the coloring for this is 5th anniversary number 1, which is the de facto standard right now of issue number 1. He did the coloring in issue number 7. Where's issue 7? I don't have an issue of number 7. I probably got to pull it from the back here. But he also did the coloring for issue number 7 as well. So, yeah, he's one of the colorists that works for me. And he was like, I sure have. My hard work. Yep. So, for those who also don't know, Green Lantern is a avid video game fighter too. So he is currently at this one event called Combo Breaker here. He was competing in Street Fighter 6 and Virtual Fighter 5. And based upon the notes that I have so far from what I read, he also did pretty good in Virtual Fighter 5. He didn't make it out of pools this time around, but usually he does, and he does pretty well. But he did pretty good where he got pretty far in the tournament for this time around here. I believe last year he got it's like I want to say like 7th or 8th. I couldn't remember, but he was like in the top 8 in the tournament last year, and I believe he was in like the top 32 at Evo last year. So he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff here. But saying all that to say here is that, like I said, I was explaining to Fable, the Saturday show is pretty much my opportunity to talk to you guys directly, and pretty much you could ask me, talk to me. It's like if you want to know something about the industry and you want to know it from a creator's point of view, I'm here for you. That's pretty much what it is here. Fighter, colorist, toy enthusiast, gamer, semi podcaster, streamer. The last two things, not so much. Unless you take in consideration of his playthroughs and walkthroughs for certain video games. Podcaster, it's like he has not really done much podcasting, so that's why I say not so much. But he has streamed a lot of walkthroughs. He has streamed a lot of builds of Transformers and stuff to that magnitude here, and the Dura stuff. Yeah, Fable is a true G. Yep. Yeah, I posted in the. Yep. Yeah, I have a few Flu Nerd Group, but that's been a while though. But yeah, Fable can continue breathing. Matt and Gary, they getting pummeled by Beanie. Well, you have to understand, Matt and Gary are currently at Triple C right now. So you have to be mindful. Triple C actually starts his show about an hour before I start here. So they're over there, buying up the next bit of wares for their collections at Triple C, and they missed our show. So what Beanie needs to do, if she ever gonna pummel people in their kneecaps, and be like, did you watch the replay? If they say no, and then she goes to work. Yeah, Fly Nerd Group. Yep, I know. Yeah, I was there on the podcast off and on. I know that you was on the podcast, and to be quite honest, one of the things that I'm quite surprised about is that they never offered to have me on here. But I was never really big. I was never really big with them anyway, so it just kind of is what it is. Okay, yeah. So that's what the replays are for. It's like everybody can't be live. Just like I try to go over there to Triple C's just to drop in, might buy a book or two, and be like, okay, if the show ends early enough and you still on, I drop back in and see and try to buy a couple of books here. But that's the whole nature of the Saturday show. The Saturday show is like, we have people talking about random things here, and we talk about it. We have fun, and that's the key thing here. Comics is supposed to be fun. If you're not having fun, either talking about, reading about, enjoying the medium as a whole, then there's something wrong. I mean, it's no different than those who like watching baseball, talking about baseball, or talking about basketball, or talking about knitting. It's fun. You're supposed to enjoy it. And if you're not enjoying it, then something is wrong. Oh, don't go into that whole thing. Yes, it's supposed to be fun. He's being sarcastic, people. He's being sarcastic, because that's kind of like the one of the things that him and I talk about as far as a lot of these, if I could say, specialized fan bases. They will complain about everything, but none of them are truly having fun with it. And when I say fun, we're talking about not the fun aspect of talking bad about it, but not having fun in the hobby itself. What is it about this hobby that you do like? And none of them could talk about it here. She hates football. Oh God. What do you mean fun? No one has fun in comic books. Comic books are serious. Now you're up here making me think about the stupid teen title. It's time for us to get really, really, really serious. No time for toys. No time for food. No time for being in a really bad mood. Oh boy. But you know, that's the nature of the Saturday show. And that's the key thing about having a good interactive chat, having people having fun here. No time for food. There's no time for toys. No time for food. Only time to be in a really serious mood. Comedy's really, really serious. I gotta make this deadline or else I won't get paid. Oh my goodness, I could do a parody of that skit all day long, but nah. But we digress. We digress here. But that's the fun. That's the fun, you know. I try to make it fun for everybody that's in the chat. And everybody has to say so in the chat, you know. We don't really try to reach out and block or ban somebody for having a contrarian opinion here. We want to understand it, and it's fair. If it's fair, it's fair. If it's flawed, we're going to say it's flawed, but we're going to hear you out. But if you just come out and just being playing out disrespectful, that's a whole different story, and you're gone. We always going to stay respectful. Like comedy is a serious move all the time, and he's laughing about it. And he said, "Piff." I swear, you guys over there love being bouncers. You will feel the might of Thor's banhammer. Yep. Yep, that is true. But no, but everything is lighthearted and fun here. It's not anything here. Yep, she has her own brand of banhammer too. At Randaz. Yep. And she will use it quickly. She will use it quickly here. But nevertheless, that was tonight's topic here. Unless you guys got other questions, do you guys got anything else you want to talk about other than comics being very, very serious? Hot dogs are fun. That was actually fun. That was actually fun to debunk a lot of stuff that people think about ketchup and hot dogs. And I know Green Lantern going to be like, "What do you mean ketchup and hot dogs? There's nothing wrong with putting ketchup on a hot dog." It's like, no, but the thing about it, ketchup is a substitute for something. But that's the key thing here. But nevertheless, oh, it's also can't even talk. It's also Memorial Day weekend here, so be safe out there. Don't be. It's like, nope, not at all. Yep. So be safe out there. You know, I understand that Mr. Green is out there, a combo breaker. He's out and about and everything. So, you know, safe travels if you're going to be with family, if you're going to travel here, there, and everywhere within your city or outside of your city. Be safe. Drive safely. Take time to look out for self and for others, especially if you're driving. Reason I point that out because when I was coming back from storage, now mind you, I'm in walking distance to my storage here, and it's like, you know, about 15 to 20 minute walk. I got pretty much to my block and I saw a very nasty car accident and where 4 or 5 cars were involved. Police had pretty much the whole intersection cordoned off, and people were still trying to drive like idiots as they diverted them away from the scene here. Granted, I understand it's a holiday weekend, and sometimes we start celebrating actually early. It happens, but it's not worth losing your life because of the simple fact that you drove a little bit too fast or you didn't see somebody else coming from the other way. Take your time. Be safe. That was one of the few times I would do that PSA because, again, seeing stuff like that during holiday weekends is like it's sobering more so than anything else. But outside of that, enjoy Memorial Day weekend. Enjoy Monday. Also, if you get a chance, thank a veteran as well, even though it's not Veterans Day, but Memorial Day is for those that did pay the ultimate price for this country. So in doing so, if you can't make it to, a memorial service for military, think of that. It would be appreciated. Yep, and have a great rest of the weekend. Same to you, Fable. And until next time, I am Joe D. McPhee. Live life, grow, and be well. And we'll be out for the week here. That means my East Coast people got at least 30. Well, let me take a little time. Yep, they got about 30 minutes of their Saturday left before they're in the future. Everybody else, enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Corey, get some good casual games in for me here. And we're out. See you later. Bye.